Hi, I'm David Steen. I decided to create this channel just to record a bunch of the stories that I have accumulated over my 71 years. And they're all Southern stories, so they're typically pretty humorous. And they're all clean, they're all absolutely real, and they're all mine. So if you think you'd like some of these, stick around. Hi, I'm sitting here on my porch of my 104-year-old house, and the story that I'm going to tell today, I've called it Scooter and Watermelons, and you'll find out why here in a minute. Me and my old buddy that I grew up with, I guess everybody's got somebody that they grew up with, their neighbor or whatever, that were best friends for years, and then they went their separate ways. Well, me and my old buddy Jack, we would camp out every Friday and Saturday night. Didn't matter what the weather was, didn't matter whether it was raining, snowing, hot, cold, didn't matter. We camped out, and for some reason we had our parents' approval. So anyway, one night we were camping out, and we decided that we wanted a watermelon. Well, we knew there were some neighbors that were 2 or 3 miles down the road that had watermelons on their porch, and I guess they had a garden, they grew them and they sold them. So we decided we were going to go there and get us a watermelon. Well, like I said, it's 2 or 3 miles away, and so we couldn't really figure out how to carry a watermelon on our bicycles, so we decided to take my old scooter. I had at the time a 1959 Cushman Silver Eagle. Now, I could drive that scooter anywhere I wanted, even though I was probably 12, 13, something like that. This was like 1965 or somewhere in that neighborhood, give or take. I could drive it anywhere I wanted during the day, even though it didn't have a license plate. I didn't have a driver's license, but back then, times were just a little different. But my parents did not allow me to drive it at night. Of course, when we camped out and we decided we wanted a watermelon, it was probably in the wee hours of the morning. And so we said, well, we'll take the scooter. So I unwired the brake light on it so that it wouldn't come on, and we never did turn on the rest of the lights. And so we pushed it about, who knows, a couple of 100 yards away from the house so that starting it up wouldn't awaken my parents, and then we'd be busted. So we pushed it down the road a ways, started it up, and then started heading toward where we knew there were watermelons, because we had seen them from the school bus that we rode every day. So we finally got close to where the watermelons were, and we killed the engine and coasted the last, who knows, 100 yards or something. And so we coasted, and I turned around and I got ready to head back. I had my old buddy Jack on the back of this scooter. Now, one thing you need to know about scooters is they're different from motorcycles. Scooters are meant for one passenger and one passenger only. And they only had foot pegs for the driver. I call them foot pegs, they're really more like foot pans. And they didn't have any foot pegs on the back for a passenger, and there was no seat for the passenger. There was just a luggage rack on the back. So as we're traveling along, there's no place for my buddy Jack to put his feet. He just had to kind of hang them out to the side. So when we got there, Jack jumped off the back. I was sitting there on the scooter waiting. He ran over to the porch, grabbed the watermelon, and brought it back. I guess while he was running with the watermelon, he decided, if we're going to get one, might as well get two. So he handed me that first watermelon, which was probably between the size of a basketball and a beach ball. So I took that watermelon, put it on the gas tank between my legs, and Jack took off to go get another one. So he ran, got one, brought it back, and then he thought, well, if we're going to get two, we might as well get three. So I don't remember what he did with the second one, but he went to get the third one and then come on back. So when he got the third one and came back, then he had to decide how he was going to carry him. So he sat one in his lap, and then he held the other one in his arms, and we took off. So we were probably, I don't know, it was a mile and a half, something like that, before we needed to turn off on our road. And he noticed that there was a car's headlights behind us. So, being that we had just committed a felony and we were now felons, he was certain that they were after us. So he hollered up at me and said, "Turn off up here on whatever the name of the road was." So I did, I turned off, but that road was a gravel road. So on a gravel road, there's a lot of things. It's dusty, it's noisy, but there's a thing that in the South we call it a washboard road. After a bunch of vehicles drive on it, then it turns into a washboard. For those of you who've never seen or heard of a washboard, I got a photo here that I'll put up that's some home decor of a little, I guess you call it a model washboard, but it would have worked well for washboard. It's just a small one that goes in your house for decorations. But anyway, this washboard road gets a little rough. And since you saw the photo of the scooter, you know that scooters have very small wheels. Small wheels are actually rougher on a washboard road than larger wheels. So on this scooter, it was really, really rough. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention about a scooter is they have no suspension like motorcycles do. So every bump that you hit, you feel it. Kind of like riding a bicycle, and it's pretty rough, only it's motorized. So we're going down this washboard road, and this old scooter would run 47 miles an hour, and of course, since we were felons and we were being supposedly chased, then I had it running as flat out, wide open, all it would do. Well, this washboard road got a little worse and a little worse, and it was shaking, and I'm just doing this number up and down, and there's poor old Jack back there behind me. He doesn't have any foot pegs. He doesn't have a seat. He doesn't have anything to hold on with, and he's trying to hold on to 2 watermelons. So we're going along there, and I turn my head around kind of halfway and say, "Hey Jack, are you okay?" He goes, "Yeah man, go, they're after us." I said, okay, so I kept going. Another, 100 yards or so. I go, "Hey Jack, you okay?" He said, man, I'm slipping. Slow down a little bit." So I slowed down about 5 miles an hour. So then I'm going on down the road, and it's just rough. Man, it's rough. In fact, like I said, the slower you get, the worse it gets. So I could feel that watermelon that he had in his lap kind of pushing on my back. And so I just kept going, and then without me even turning around asking, he goes, "Hey man, hey, slow down a little bit. I'm slipping." So I slowed down about 5 miles an hour or so, kept on going. Then he said, hey man, slow down, I'm slipping. I said, all right, so I slowed down another 5 miles an hour. So it's probably running 30, 35 miles an hour, and the rough road was getting rougher. And then suddenly, I didn't feel the watermelon pressing against my back anymore. So I turned my head over and said, "Hey Jack, you all right? Hey Jack, you all right?" So I turned on around and looked, no Jack. I'm sure everybody has watched cartoons before. It's where there's a cat and a dog having a fight. And what they show is a big ball of dust with an occasional paw sticking out, or a head, or a tail, or something. Well, that's what I saw when I looked back. It was a little dim moonlight, but I could see everything back there. And old Jack was doing somersaults and tumbling and flipping and cartwheels, and he was just all over the place. So I immediately put on the binders and stopped and turned around, and when I got back there to him, he was sitting in the road and the dust had settled, and he was completely covered in watermelon juice and blood, and the dust from the road mixed with all this juice and blood had turned into mud. and he was just one messy mud pie from top to bottom. But he jumped back on the scooter with about half of a watermelon. That was all that was left. And since we were felons being chased, or so we thought, the car actually didn't turn off on that road, and we didn't need to do all that anyway. But since we were felons, we proceeded to go back to my house. When we got back to my house, we coasted the last, couple of 100 yards, whatever it was, so that my parents couldn't hear the scooter running, and we coasted in and pushed the scooter and put it up under the carport very discreetly so no one would know. And then we figured we might better tend to old Jack's wounds a little bit. So this was summertime. That's typically when watermelons get ripe. And in the summer, we only wore gym shorts. We never wore shoes, we never wore shirts, just gym shorts. Of course, we never had air conditioning, so we had to stay cool somehow when we were in the house. So we took a water hose and hosed him down and got all his bleeding to stop, and he was a whole lot better shape, I think, than we thought he was, even though there was blood leaking from his ankles and his knees, and his elbows, his wrists, his shoulders. He had scrapes and scratches all over him, but none of them were nasty. They were just road rash and, heavy scrapes. So after we got him all cleaned up, we went down to his house and delivered that nasty half of a watermelon and gave it to his horse, and we proceeded to finish our little camp out and eat our watermelon that we had worked so hard to get. So I guess there's a moral to every story, and this one probably would have two morals. One, don't steal anything, ever. That's not a good thing to do. I don't care any conditions, just don't steal. The second moral is, if you decide to do something, make yourself a plan and figure out exactly what all you're going to need to execute that plan. If we'd have thought about it, well, first off, we couldn't have been able to carry watermelons on the bicycles anyway, so that's why we decided on the scooter. And so we should have gotten, I don't know, some feed sacks, some bungee cords, some ropes, something to help secure the watermelon onto the scooter to make our mission successful without tumbling old Jack down the road like we did. So anytime you have a plan, figure everything out that you need to do, and then you can execute the plan successfully and safely. So if you like this little story, I've got a bunch more tucked away that I'll be recording. Then you're on YouTube, you know what to do. I'm not going to tell you all the stuff that everybody else does. And if you didn't like this story, just don't come back. It's real simple. Don't leave some nasty comment, because it's just unnecessary. So hopefully if you did like it, I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.